idea of various mind control techniques to control the person to think they're going to win money. From the person standing in front to the very machines that are shown when you walk past a joint and you look at, that's what they call themselves, isn't that wonderful? And they'll look past this at the front of these places, and you'll see machines sometimes right inside the door. Those are usually pretty good machines. Now, not so much that they'll make big payoffs. They're not really geared to make big payoffs. They're geared to make lots of payoffs. So the person still ends up putting the money back in. But the idea is it's a flow. Every once in a while, of course, there'll always be the big payoff, and they are generally some of the most played machines, so we've got to give it that as well. Inside, you'll find lots and lots of various messages around. If you walk around a casino, you'll see there's all sorts of messages and signs. But if you try to find the front door, you're going to have some problems because they're also geared to lose you inside of them. So that you get lost in among all these messages, and the front door isn't always as evident as it might be as you came in the door. Again, another rule among the casino industry is keep them in the house. It's this and other methodologies such as this that are used quite a bit to control you and I, to get us to think the way they want us to think. Who are they? Well, I guess I'll leave that up to you. A lot of people say it's a boogeyman or the NWO or whatever. However you want to see that boogeyman, I suppose. But there is a boogeyman. There are boogie people, and they want to boogie down on you. We'll take a quick break. We'll get back. We'll talk some more. Let's see, what will I play? Well, I go get something to drink here. Let me look through. Before we went to the break there, I was talking a little bit about the Tavistock Institute at one point, because this is one of the key things that things keep coming back to, sort of the linking point between theosophy, if you will, and mind control as it was applied to science. The Tavistock Institute was formed in 1947. It's an independent, not-for-profit organization which seeks to combine research in social sciences with professional practice. Problems of institution building and organization design and change are being tackled in all the sectors: government, industry, and commerce, health and welfare, education, etc., nationally and internationally, and clients range from multinationals to small community groups. It's still available. You can still see it on its website under the Tavistock Institute. It's located at 30 Tabernacle Street, London. It's an institute that owns and edits the monthly journal Human Relations, published by Clement Press, which is now in its 48th year, and has recently launched, in conjunction with Sage Publications, a new journal called Evaluation. Three elements combine to make the institute unusual, if not unique. It has the independence of being entirely self-financing, with no subsidiaries from the government or other sources, which makes it questionable in and itself. The action research orientation places in between, but not in, the worlds of academia and consultancy, and its range of disciplines include anthropology, economics, organizational behavior, political science, psychoanalysis, psychiatry, and sociology. The ideology of the American Foundations was created by the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations in London in 1921. The Duke of Bedford, Marquis of Tavistock, the 11th Duke, gave a building to the Institute to study the effect of shell shock on British soldiers who survived World War I. Its purpose was to establish the breaking point of men under stress under the direction of the British Army Bureau of Psychological Warfare, commanded by Sir John Rawlings Rees. Tavistock Institute is headquartered, of course, in London. Its prophet was Sigmund Freud, who settled in Maresfield Garden when he moved to England. He was given a mansion by Princess Bonaparte. Tavistock's pioneer work in behavioral science along Freudian lines of controlling humans established it as the world center of Foundation ideology. Its network now extends from the University of Sussex to the U.S. through the Stanford Research Institute. It also includes Esalen, MIT, Hudson Institute, Heritage Foundation, Center of Strategic and International Studies at Georgetown, where State Department personnel are trained, the U.S. Air Force Intelligence, and the Rand and MITRE corporations. The personnel of the corporations are required to undergo indoctrination at one or more of these Tavistock-controlled institutions, a network of secret groups. These groups include such things as Mont Pelerin Society, Trilateral Commission, which I've spoken of before, Ditchley Foundation, and the Club of Rome is a conduit for instructions to the Tavistock network. Tavistock Institute developed the mass brainwashing techniques which were first used experimentally on American prisoners of war in Korea. Its experiments in crowd control methods have been widely used on American public. A surreptitious but nevertheless outrageous assault on human freedom by modifying individual behavior through topical psychology. A German refugee, Kurt Willen, became director of Tavistock in 1932. He came to the U.S. in 1933 as a refugee, the first of many infiltrators, and set up the Harvard Psychology Clinic, which originated the propaganda campaign to turn the American public against Germany and involve us in World War II. In 1938, Roosevelt executed a secret agreement with Churchill, which in effect ceded U.S. sovereignty to England because it agreed to let Special Operations Executive control U.S. policies. To implement the agreement, Roosevelt sent General Donovan to London for indoctrination before setting up OSS, now called the CIA. Tavistock Institute originated the mass civilian bombing raids carried out by Roosevelt and Churchill purely as a clinical experiment in mass terror, keeping records of the results as they watched the guinea pigs reacting under controlled laboratory conditions. All Tavistock and American Foundation techniques have a single goal: to break down the psychological strength of the individual and render him helpless to oppose the dictators of the New World Order. Any technique which helps to break down the family unit, I should say, the family in calculated principles of religion, honor, patriotism, sexual behavior, these were all used by Tavistock scientists as weapons in crowd control. The methods of Freudian psychotherapy induce permanent mental illness in those who undergo the treatment by destabilizing their character. This is known in many circles here in the Americas. When you go to basic training, they will often show you war films where they show you people being blown up and so forth. Many video games today also give us the same principle of being able to view, oh yeah, look at his brain explode. We're used to that. And it takes away from our inner sense of balance, our various principles, religion, honor, patriotism, sexual behavior, so forth, which is an animal state of mind. The victim is then advised to establish new rituals of personal interaction, that is, to indulge in brief sexual encounters, which actually set the participants adrift with no stable personal relationships in their lives, destroying their ability to establish and maintain family, friends, etc. Tavistock Institute has developed such powers in the U.S. that no one achieves prominence in any field unless he's been trained in behavioral science of the Tavistock kind. Henry Kissinger, whose meteoric rise to power is otherwise inexplicable, was a German refugee and a student of Sir John Rawlings Rees at CHAEF. Dr. Peter Bourne, a Tavistock Institute psychologist, picked Jimmy Carter for president of the U.S. solely because Carter had undergone an intensive brainwashing program administered by Admiral Hyman Rickover of Annapolis. The experiment in compulsory racial integration in the U.S. was organized by Ronald Lippert of the OSS and the American Jewish Congress and Director of Child Training in the Commission on Community Relations. The program was designed to break down the individual's sense of personal knowledge in his identity, his racial heritage, and this was all administered through the Stanford Research Institute, Tavistock, and the National Education Association. A single common denominator identifies the common Tavistock strategy. It uses drugs, the infamous MK-Ultra program of the CIA, in which unsuspecting CIA officials were given LSD and their reactions studied like guinea pigs, resulted in several deaths, in fact, and the U.S. government had to pay millions in damages to families of the victims, but the culprits were never indicted. The program originated when Sardoz AG, a Swiss drug firm owned by S.G. Warburg Company of London, developed lysergic acid. Roosevelt's advisor, James Paul Warburg, son of Paul Warburg, who wrote the Federal Reserve Act, and nephew of Max Warburg, who was a financial Hitler, or who financed Hitler, might as well have been, set up the institute for policy studies to promote the drug. The result was the LSD counterculture in the 1960s and the student revolution, which was financed by $25 million in CIA funds. One part of the MKUltra was the Human Ecology Fund. The CIA also paid Herbert Kellman of Harvard to carry out further experiments on mind control. In the 1950s, the CIA financed extensive LSD experiments in Canada. Dr. D. Ewan Cameron, president of the Canadian Psychological Association and director of the Royal Victorian Hospital in Montreal, received large payments from the CIA to give 53 patients large doses of LSD to record their reactions. The patients were drugged into weeks of sleep and then given electric shock treatments. One victim, the wife of a member of Canadian Parliament, is now suing the U.S. companies who provided the drug to the CIA. All the records of the CIA's drug testing program were ordered destroyed by the head of MKUltra. Because all the efforts of the Tavistock Institute are directed towards producing cyclical collapse, the effort of the CIA programs are tragically apparent. In the legacy of the Warburgs and the CIA, their principal agency, the Institute for Policy Studies, was funded by James Paul Warburg. Its co-founder was Marcus Raskin, protege of McGeorge Bundy, president of the Ford Foundation. Bundy had Raskin appointed to the post of President Kennedy's personal representative on the National Security Council, and in 1963 funded Students for the Democratic Society, through which the CIA operated the drug culture. Today, the Tavistock Institute operates a $6 billion a year network of foundations in the U.S. It's all funded by all of it's now currently funded by U.S. taxpayer money. 10 major institutions are under its direct control, with 400 subsidiaries and 3,000 other study groups and think tanks which originate many types of programs to increase the control of the New World Order over the American people and, yes, over the people of the world. I think I will hold back on reading most of this rest of this article to you, although I don't always agree with everything that the writers say. This was all very interesting. If you'd like to read an interesting book on it and make your own decision, there is a book called The Conspirators' Hierarchy, The Story of the Committee of 300 by a man by the name of Dr. John Coleman. I still say that the best starting point, by the way, is the book I offer for free, though, available on my website, ALLXCAST. It's called None Dare Call It Conspiracy. It's a very quick read. Call it a bathroom book because it's easy to read. But it gives you a basic idea and understanding. And pretty much it's all the same stuff that Alex Jones would give you. In fact, he often credits this book with being the first book that got him into understanding what was going on. And so, hey, why don't we go back to the source? There's a lot of preachers out there, but everybody's got to have a Bible. This is a good one for what's going on today. It also explains why, in this book, so many of us are called conspiracy theorists, and how that word became an evil word. Conspiracy theorist, to me, by the way, is not somebody who is evil. Somebody who questions. Somebody who takes stock in themselves and says, you know what, I don't understand all the answers. I'm going to find the answers. I'm going to do it somehow. How can I do this? What can I do to change the world by finding the answers? Now, what we do as these conspiracy theorists is we become, well, I guess you could use the term information warfare. No, not InfoWars. Interesting that they use that term on Infowars.com. But information warfare is what we do right now. It's the best thing we can do at the moment. It's passing on pertinent information of what's going on. Not necessarily trying to freak everybody out, but giving people understanding of the alternative thinking of what's really going on in the world. The Internet's a great place for that because at least you can take a look around and explore all the different possibilities. You can see the right, you can see the left, you can see the crazies, the tinfoil hatters, you can see the scientists. You can look at them all in one convenient location, just sitting in your chair. I think it's a pretty good thing to have, personally, as a study place where you can look at it all. But you have to be careful what you judge and who you listen to and what sources you pull things from. Even when I share things, take it with a grain of salt. Use the information. Use the names. Go explore it yourself. Not just because I say it or read it here or whatever, but because you care enough to look.